Hi, everyone. This is Traci with Psyched magazine. And today we have a very special guest who is not only a colleague and friend, but also somebody that's doing something brand new who I think is really cool. Esther Boykin from DC. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Tell me about, you've got a gazillion projects that you're doing. So can you just list them all, please?
Oh my goodness.
Like what are all your websites? I have one of them up, but what are all the things you're doing?
So I guess first and foremost would be Group Therapy Associates. So that's my private practice. I have a group private practice here in the DC metro area. So that's like every day. That's my everyday job. And then sort of as a almost like a division of that is Therapy is Not a Dirty Word, which is part social media campaign and part these really fantastic events that I love, these happy hours that I'm sure we'll talk more about. And then I have a podcast called With That Being Said. I have a book called The Date Deck. I work with you in Sidewalk Talk, which I just makes my heart happy. Yay. I don't know. That's the short list. I'm sure there's a million other things that I'm doing or I'm supposed to be doing that I can't remember right now.
Awesome. Well, I really wanted to make the time to hear more about therapy is not a dirty word because I know that as I've gotten to know you, you're such an advocate for therapy and mental health. And so I just wanted to hear more about what is this campaign that you've started? So you're a therapist with this thriving practice. You do all these other volunteer related projects and give back to the community. What made you want to start Therapy is Not a Dirty Word?
So it really started, I mean, really as like a hashtag that Erica Turner, who you've chatted with before, who works for me, who helps me with a lot of marketing, we were brainstorming one day and she was like, I really love this idea that would be kind of a fun hashtag. And I was like, that's great. And then we really kind of were like, so what does that look like? Because for me, even when I started the practice, that's always been kind of foundational to like my work is how do we make what we do feel less intimidating, less scary, less mysterious? Like this is stuff that we should be able to talk about kind of really openly. And so we started really just featuring like celebrity quotes, which is always fun, talking about their depression or their experience in therapy and how therapy helped their relationships or whatever it is. And then in the last year, I had expanded and started asking people I knew. So, I probably one of my favorite stories is going to this tiny, it's not really tiny, but a little like custom motorcycle shop in Salt Lake City, Utah. And just chatting with a guy. I mean, we were on vacation with my husband and started talking, usual, what do you do? And I was like, oh, I'm a therapist. And he kind of made a face and I couldn't read the face. Like I didn't know what it meant. So I was like, wait a minute, what is that? What was that little face? He was like, no, he's like, I think what you do is awesome. He's like, I go to couples therapy, whatever it was every week. I love it. It's fantastic. Like, I think it's the greatest thing. And I said, let me get your number. I'm going to text you. Like, I want, if you're comfortable, like, I want to share your thoughts about it. Like, it's great when I can share, whoever, some celebrities, but what about somebody who is just living their everyday life, regular people, and especially for like, particularly men and minorities and people who tend to think, oh, therapy is not for me, sharing that. And, which is a very long-winded story to get to. Everything I ever come up with, I always want there to be a live component. I love throwing parties. I love being, like, I feel like I am at my best when I am face-to-face with small groups of people. And so I've just been constantly thinking, how do I do this? How do I do this? And then earlier this year was just like, I think we should do like mixers, like a happy hour. Like that's what people in DC do. They go to happy hour or they go to brunch and just chit chat about their jobs and things. And I thought, well, what if therapists started coming to happy hour? And what if we started talking about the things that we do and how much more comfortable that conversation would be than, come to a workshop, come to a lecture. Like, no, come and hang out with us. We hang out.
Right. Right. Well, so let me get this straight then. You had this social media campaign that was really about getting people to not think therapy was so weird.
Mm-hmm.
Then you've had these really interesting interactions with people along the way. You realized, oh, wow, I really like doing the interaction. let's just bridge those two things. And so you have these happy hours, and who do you invite? Is it just for therapists, or are you inviting the public and therapists?
It is the public and therapists. I mean, I sometimes I'll tell people, I'm like, it's literally, I invite like a handful of like therapist friends, and then we throw a party for the public. That's the
Wow.
idea. Is the setup is it's a panel, but I've been doing several of them at WeWork locations because they have a very kind of like a very cool, very chill vibe, and so
Right.
we all just sit around. I mean, if you can imagine just hanging out with your friends and, over some beers and some wine and, iced teas and just chatting. And literally that's what happens. So it is open to the public. I try to keep there's obviously a cost associated with it so that I can like feed you and provide drinks and market. But I try to keep the cost down so it feels like this is about how much you'd spend to go to happy hour anywhere. But
Yeah.
you get to come and ask some questions that you probably, well, let's say you're definitely going to get better answers than you would get if you were asking this like at your local bar.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, how's it going? Are people intimidated to show up, or do they come? I mean, I'm imagining it takes a little while to get it going, right?
It definitely takes a little while to get it going. So, I think every time I do it, the crowd gets a little bit bigger. But it's been amazing. I have to say, every single, even the first one where I think, 5 people showed up. 3 of them were therapists who were just, friends who were like coming to support, but were not on the panel. And then a handful of people who just happened to be where we were stuck around. They were kind of like, oh, what are you guys doing? And it was just amazing. But every single event, there's at least one person who says to me, I love this. Like, either I had questions about therapy, or I had thought about it and I was kind of nervous, or I have a friend or a family member who I wanted to suggest it to and I didn't know what to do. Like, what you guys talked about tonight has made that so much easier for me. Like, every single time. And that, right, for me, like, if 2 people show up, that's reason enough for me to come out and do these, because that's really my entire mission is like, we've got to change the dialogue around therapy.
Yeah. Yeah. So, how much does reaching into marginalized communities play into this project for you in terms of, changing the perception that therapy is elitist for rich white people?
Yes. So
I
it's
mean,
yeah, no, that is a thing. That is definitely the perception. So I would say, I've told a couple of people, I think the target in particular for these happy hours is very much what I like to call like high risk, low engagement. So it's men, it's minorities, it's also entrepreneurs. And so I wouldn't necessarily count them as being marginalized in the way that I typically think about marginalized communities. And yet when it comes to mental health and access to therapy, these are groups of people who tend to have higher risks. They experience, for a variety of different factors, they seem to have higher rates of depression, anxiety, suicidality, all of those kinds of things that are really important to seek treatment. And they have some of the lowest engagement rates when it comes to seeking out a therapist to talk about some of those issues. So for me, that's sort of the happy hour piece. There's certainly some other groups that I try to reach in different ways, in different work that I do.
yep. So I'm curious to hear from you why you think these groups have lower engagement rates, or what have you heard from them when they come to these happy hours? What has been the reticence or not even considering therapy?
So a big piece of it is unfamiliarity. Nobody in their circle is talking about going to therapy. Even if there are people in their circle going to therapy, they're not talking openly about their therapist or their experiences with therapy. So I get a lot of really fundamental questions. Who do I call to find a therapist? What kinds of questions should I ask? What do I expect at the first session? Some of it is simply just feeling like I don't know where to begin, so I don't.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think in particular, what I find, actually, I was going to say with men and entrepreneurs, but you know what? It's true for minorities as well, is there is within each of those groups a cultural message around pulling yourself up by your bootstraps, suck it up, you can get through it. There's sort of like pride and honor in the struggle and sort of struggling in silence.
Mm.
And that this sense of I need to save face all the time. And so
Uh-huh.
that other entrepreneurs or, other, CEOs or, people who are sort of at startups would think less of me, would think that I'm weak. Other men will think that I'm weak. It's sort of counterintuitive to the strong Black woman kind of image that often is out there for people who are successful in other areas of life. And so that's a lot of what I hear.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you change the mind? I mean, what is it? I mean, I imagine some of it's just meeting you and recognizing that, okay, you're a real person. This isn't as weird as I might have thought. But that idea, that prizing of pulling yourself up by your bootstraps, I really get it. I hear it a lot too. So I'm curious what the magic is that you provide that might actually influence them.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know yet really what the magic is. I definitely feel like there is something to be said for um, just feeling represented. So obviously I'm not a man, but, um, you know, I run a business. I understand what it's like to have a sort of hustle and grind about your lifestyle that's different than a lot of other people. And also that it's not healthy to struggle in silence through that process. And so some of it, I think, is simply just being like, oh, she's a real person and she seems like she gets what pieces of what my experience really are. And then the other part is I need to do more follow-up surveys because I do feel like there's a little bit of magic that I don't know what that is. I'm not sure what it is or what combinations of factors seem to be happening. But so far the feedback's been really good. People are open. People, I got an email last week from somebody who came to an event in March and was like, hey, could you make a referral, or, I think that I'm ready. You said some things that I have spent a few months thinking about.
Yeah. Yeah. And so how do you help them match to find a therapist? Like, I know you're doing them all over the world, these therapist happy hours. So clearly they can't come to see you guys in DC. So how are you matching them?
So one of my big goals, sort of the secondary goal here, is also about really reaching out to other therapists. As therapists, we are not super great about things like marketing and about community outreach in this sort of way, like really putting yourself out there so that potential clients can find you. And so everywhere I go, including in DC, even though I run a practice here, the rest of the panel is always other local therapists. So that's sort of the first base is each event, I want there to be 3, 4, 5 other therapists who are based wherever I am hosting the happy hour. And then if they can't take it, then, I get to lean on their network so that we're also as professionals doing more to reach more people.
Got it. So it's like a service. It's almost like a public service to the entire community when those therapists on the panel aren't finding a client match. They are going to make referrals to others in their community, it sounds like, and hopefully help match that person so that they have an easier time finding someone.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. That's really cool.
Thanks.
Yeah, I'm still stuck on this question because I think this is something that you and I share in common. I think that's also the thread of this nonprofit work we do with Sidewalk Talk, that this idea of going it alone rather than relying on meaningful human connection to get through what are really the ups and downs of life that all of us have and that ultimately can lead to, I call them mental flus rather than mental illness. I don't know. There's this idea that it's stuck with us forever, but mental illness isn't always stuck with us forever. We overcome mental illness. But this suffering in silence idea, it sounds you're both creating this connection point and education for these communities that really prize that. And I'm wondering what sources, sorry to put you on the spot, I'll throw some in too, but what are your favorite sources of thinkers or psychologists or researchers that are helping I don't want to use the word destigmatize, but help us really know that, hey, human connection is like a necessary requirement to our well-being. Like this isn't, you shouldn't be prizing suffering in silence. It's actually required, to need
Yeah.
someone. I mean, I always think of Dan Siegel as the first person that comes to mind on my end, but I'm just curious who your favorite thing.
Well, definitely Dan Siegel. I love his work. I do, because I do a lot of couples work. I think even though her work is very much about sort of the intimate partner relationship, but Sue Johnson, really anybody who starts to talk about vulnerability and attachment, and this
Yeah.
idea that this is not, it's not a weakness. It's not even like a preference. I've had people will say like, oh, like I'm not judging it negatively in others. It's just, I don't need it. And I'm always like, that's like saying I don't need food or I don't need water. Like,
Right.
no.
What's powerful about what you're doing is that I'm excited and hopeful that what isn't a dirty word provides is this awareness that therapy can, it can just be an integral part of our, you go to the gym, you go to the dentist, and you go to therapy.
Yeah. Which is really, I mean, ultimately that's sort of my like utopian dream is that we get to a place where we are able to acknowledge that that is key, um, that is essential to our survival, not just as an individual, but as communities, as families, as culture, as a global, society, that we have to find ways to stay connected to other human beings. And it looks different. And then we get into sort of the fun and the mess of it's different between different people and in different ways and the baggage we bring and all of that stuff. But to help people sort of just deepen the connection. I mean, in the back of my head, that's what I think about too, is people go to happy hour probably, Monday through Friday, Monday through Thursday, whatever it is, and rarely have deeper, more meaningful conversation. And meaningful conversation doesn't always have to be about problems. You and I just talked about that. Sometimes it's about just feeling heard and connected around whatever it is. I had a great day today. That's
Yeah.
just as meaningful.
Well, so this brings up an interest me all the time. They say, well, my good friend, the stuff that's going on with me, and that's enough. Why do I need to see a therapist? And how would you someone asked it at a happy hour? My friends, my mom, my brother is my therapist.
I always sort of go to like, so what's the thing that's what's happening right now that you would hesitate to talk to your mother, your brother, your best friend about? Because we all have that. There is stuff that, and sometimes the hesitation is because of what it is or how we think other people will judge us. Sometimes the hesitation is simply that, my mom's having a hard time. My best friend's going through her own thing. And so I don't want to, there's lots of reasons. And so therapy is about, for me, it's about always having a safe space to just open up all of our vulnerabilities, right? Like a safe place to just sort of be honored as a full, complicated, messy human being. And I think we all need that outside of our intimate relationships. Those are equally important. I mean, I don't know about you, but it's the big red flag. If I have a client who's like, I don't have anyone else but you to talk to, I'm equally worried about them. And
Yeah.
we need more. But yeah, I think therapy is a special kind of relationship.
Yeah. So it sounds like therapy becomes safe because the therapist isn't judging, where a mother, brother, friend, even though that person says they can say anything, not totally know that they are. And then with a therapist, you're saying, you don't have to, that's what I hear.
Yeah. There's,
you're not burdening the therapist because
right.
it's the therapist to take care of.
Yeah. And I think that there is something really special. And I think this is, if I had to come up with like, what's the greatest benefit, there are lots of really good benefits, but maybe one of the greatest benefits of therapy, if you're particularly from marginalized communities, be it sort of the people that I'm taught, men and minorities and entrepreneurs who may not be marginalized in other ways or, socioeconomically, but to have a place where someone really sees you and can kind of hold all of your stuff and give you an opportunity to practice receiving that. I think, we don't often think very much about what a challenge it can be to receive unconditional love and acceptance and compassion from other
Mm.
people. I think sometimes we know we want it, but to what
Mm-hmm.
it feels like to really have that, especially if your experience is that you're supposed to take care of everybody, pull yourself up, be strong, be independent, be successful. Those things don't really leave room to be softer and to be, more vulnerable and to
Yeah.
really feel what it feels like to have someone sort of hold you, and I not physically hold you, but emotionally
You're
hold space
using
for you.
therapy
I'm using therapy
now,
words.
aren't you? Well, I love that you're making this point, though, because I think that this is something that's so hard to put words to, an important piece for clients. What I hear you really expressing is that just between the therapist and the client, and that client getting to experience what it's like to not have to improving. I mean, I'm always amazed at how sometimes when I'm working with clients, it's not about giving them homework and improving, but they're relating to me and feeling cared about and practicing feeling what it's like to be is the work. And
Yeah.
that it makes them more receptive everyday lives to being cared about. And then they stumble across finding themselves in a life or in relationships where suddenly more people are caring about, are receptive to it.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I'm hearing you say. And I love that you brought attention to that because I'm not sure I would have thought to bring attention to that. I think that's right on the money, you know?
I think I think it's sort of a hidden struggle in a lot of ways. Because oftentimes we say we want that. I think lots of people who are fairly self-aware will say, like, oh, I wish I felt more appreciated in my marriage, or I wish, my friends, listened better. But oftentimes there is a piece of us that is not receptive to actually taking that in from other people. And therapy is, I would say it's like it's practice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like relating practice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's really cool. I'm going to get in for a second. Where's the calendar that people can find out about these therapy is not a dirty word happy hours that you're putting on?
So I just launched therapyisnotadirtyword.com. So you can
Okay.
find, if you get on therapyisnotadirtyword.com, you can see all the cities that we've got planned for the rest of 2017. Um, the dates that are officially confirmed are all up there, as well as, how do you RSVP, how do you get on the list? And for therapists or other, mental health advocates, people who would like to participate from a professional standpoint, there is also a form they can fill out and let me know where they are, and we'll get in touch.
Wonderful. So I just put the URL for therapy is not a dirty word on the interview screen right now.
Perfect.
And now I want to ask a few questions. I think we're winding down, but I wanted to ask a few standard questions to all my guests.
Sure.
This is called Lunch with Traci, and I know that it's 3 o'clock where you are, 3:30. But I do want to know what you ate for lunch.
Oh, easy. Let's see. So I had a salad from my favorite little cafe across the street. So I had a salad with chicken and balsamic vinaigrette, and I am still eating what's left of my gluten-free lavender blueberry muffin, which makes me feel like I'm super fancy.
Mmm. Yeah. That sounds delicious. I like to ask every guest that well, you know me. I'm sort of a fan of the gritty, and I have to imagine that as beautiful as you, competent and professional as you are, that you have shitty days, right?
Oh,
That your
yeah.
life isn't always all together. And I like it to just name that for folks that are watching because I hate all the stuff that's out there. That's like, my life is fabulous, and let me tell you how fabulous it is, and how you live too. I hate that shit.
Yeah. This is why we're friends.
This is why we're friends. Uh, so let me ask you, on a shitty day,
Oh,
what are your go-to rescue? What's your Esther Boykin rescue remedy?
okay. Music, probably pretty. Yeah, I have a gazillion Spotify playlists for varying levels of mood and whatever, and so music for sure. Um, Coffee or tea, depending on where. Like if I'm feeling like I just can't get it together, then coffee. Usually coffee. What else is my rescue remedy? Music, coffee, and then I have gotten better. Not great, far from perfect, but better at noticing my own sort of self-talk. So when I'm at a place where I'm like, my physical space is always the indicator. So like my office is a wreck, my house is a wreck, my kitchen, like everything. And I'm like, okay, deep breath. And then I will usually make a list and I'll like all the things that I feel like I'm failing at, can't get done, and behind on. And then which one of these is emergency, which generally works out to be like none of these. None of these are like life or death scenarios. And so I'll usually then just be like, okay, music, coffee, maybe some bad TV. I actually am quite a fan of like really just.
Oh, how bad does it get? Are we talking like The Bachelor?
I won't watch The Bachelor, but I will watch The Bachelorette.
Oh, okay. I was going to just tell you that I was so glad that you weren't watching either of those. And I'm sorry, people that are watching that watch that.
No,
I used to watch it, but it's such a time suck
it is such a time
because it
suck.
gets you so it does effectively get you out of your rut because it's just like a little vacation in paradise, right?
Yeah, which is
Okay.
basically all of my TV. So yeah, that'll be that's my other confession is lots of, you know, reality TV and like really bad rom-coms and things that I just can be like, oh, I don't have to think at all.
I love knowing this about you. Okay, and then Thomas, we talked who you introduced me to
Yeah.
a couple weeks ago, and he shared with me his SOS song. So I'm going to ask you, like, just off the top of your head, don't think too hard about it, but maybe you can think about it this way. You can think of it as a gift to me, knowing what you know about me. If you could
Oh.
lend me one of your songs for SOS crap, what song would you share with me?
Oh,
But it
that's
has to be your song, not a song for
not
me,
a
but one
song
of
for
your
you, but
songs
one
that
of
you
my songs. Okay.
one of your songs that you would share with me or gift to me.
Let me think. So if I just need to be happier, like I just need to like feel more positive, then that's what I like. Bruno Mars. And
Okay.
if I am stuck, like CEO, like what am I doing? I can't possibly run a business. Like this is crazy town, and I just need to
Yeah.
like pull it together on the professional side of things. Um, then it's either, well, it's probably both back to back. So Rihanna, bitch better have my money. Say that. This isn't like national TV. I can say that, and
You can
then
say this here.
um, followed
And
by
what a relief that you can say
yes,
that here.
I love it. And then Kanye can't tell me nothing. So like it just gets my
Okay.
whole like, okay, all right, I got this.
Okay, so I will be putting those all in the comments because actually the music from the last interview, this is a real popular thing. Everyone loves to know the song, so I might just make it a new standard question. That's great. I really love knowing this about you. Um, so just to close our conversation, Esther, I really do want to send a heartfelt thank you, not only for our friendship, but I do appreciate all the ways that you show up in the world. You have an incredible amount of strength and humility at the same time. And that's my favorite thing about you is that there's a way in which you embody power and humility simultaneously. And those are the kind of people that I like to be friends with. So I just want to say thank you from me to you and then from the rest of us because everything that you're doing is actually helping the rest of us. And thanks for coming on and talking about it. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, really, for all of those things. For that means it means a lot to me. It's probably one of the nicest compliments I've ever gotten, and it means that much more coming from you. I mean, I think I have so much respect for all the work that you do. So, and this was super fun, and hopefully you will also post one of your songs in the comments so that I will know.
Oh, okay. Throwing down the gun.
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay. I'm a little embarrassed though because my music repertoire isn't so great. I was only allowed to listen to religious music growing up. So, when I first entered public school, I didn't even know who Michael Jackson was. So
So you're still catching up. It's okay.
I'm catching. This is partly why I asked this question. All right. Well, to everybody that's out there that's watching, and this will also go up on our YouTube channel. You can find more out about Esther. There's two key places to look: estherboykin.com and therapyisnotadirtyword.com. Both of them will be in the comments. You can also see some of them on the screen now. And if you're interested in participating, she does travel around the country. She's even taken Therapy is Not a Dirty Word to Europe. So if this is something you're interested in as a therapist, please reach out and fill out the form and get involved. And for sure, if you're in, this is a really non-threatening way to learn about therapists and what they do, and if it's something that would benefit you. We think it will, but I think you need to find out firsthand. Thanks, Esther. Have a good rest of your work day.
You
And I'll talk to
too.
you soon. Okay, bye.
Bye.
End broadcast.